The Paul George experiment this season has been nothing short of a disaster. This season, Paul is averaging just 16 points per game on 42% shooting from the field and 36% shooting from three. Numbers that are quite laughable when compared to the play that Sixers fans whined about for years. The Sixers are also a much better team with Paul George off the court, as they average 4.5 more points per possessions when he's off the court versus when he's on the court. I see a lot of fans try to play the injury card as well, saying that Paul George has no help and that Tyrese is injured and that Joel is injured. But Paul George really plays just as well with them on the court as he does without them on the court. When Tyrese is on the court, Paul George still averages 16.5 points per game, versus when Tyrese is not on the court, he averages 15.5 points per game. So the drop off is really not there. Paul also played in many different starting lineups as a member of the Clippers, only playing 40% of his games with Kawhi in the lineup. These numbers are just not excusable compared to last year. Before I continue, if you could consider hitting the subscribe bell and turning on post notifications, that would be greatly appreciated in helping the channel grow. We could take a look at the game that Paul George recently played against the Nets, where he dropped 2 points, and I think it was on like over 7 shooting. We can clearly see that there's some kind of drop off in his explosion and the way that he gets to the rim. He's just not the same player that he was last year. Take, for instance, this play right here against the Hornets. So Paul George gets the screen from Joel Embiid, and right about here, he should be able to blow by Cody Martin and get to the rim with ease. But as we see, he kind of stumbles a little bit, and then next thing you know, there's 2 defenders and Joel Embiid is wide open, but he can't hit him. This is a prime example of how PG just doesn't have that first step anymore. And there's another example here where PG's trying to get past his defender, but he just can't. I mean, Jared Allen's got him on clamps right here. There's no way that he should be able to stay in front of him. And then PG goes to kick out, and what do you know? It's a turnover. I mean, this kind of stuff just can't happen for the 76ers if they're going to make a legit run. The other problem for this is that Paul George is getting paid $50 million to play with the Sixers. He's getting paid $50 million to be the counterpart for Joel Embiid, but he just can't do it. He can't keep on playing like this if the Sixers are going to make a run at it. Tyrese is playing well. Joel is at the end of his career, and if the Sixers are going to make a legit run, he can't play like this. I think if I'm the Sixers, I really need to look at trading Paul George this offseason, or benching him come playoff time, or I'm not sure what needs to give. But to be the counterpart to Joel Embiid and to Tyrese Maxey, he's just not playing well enough. And we seen last year in the playoffs that Tyrese Maxey can be that guy. I mean, this guy was putting up 30 points against the Knicks on a regular basis. Joel was playing well, and Paul George was supposed to be this wing that came in, this wing that they didn't have last year. Yes, they had Kelly Oubre, and yes, they had guys like some other people on that team. I can't even remember, but he needs to be that wing, that dynamic wing player that he was in Oklahoma, in Indiana, and I just don't think that's who he is anymore. Now, luckily for the 76ers, they do have some time to figure this out. I mean, we are only about 50 games into the season. So they do have some time to really figure this out, but they got to figure it out soon. Joel is not coming back, and when Joel comes back, his knee is always messed up. But I think the fate of the 76ers season really lies on Paul George and his ability to take this team somewhere in the absence of Joel Embiid. Yes, Tyrese is going to play well, but the duo of Tyrese and Paul George should be enough to at least squeak you into the play-in so that Joel can come back. And I really do believe a 70% or 80% Joel Embiid is enough to make some real noise in the playoffs. I mean, we seen Embiid and Joel do it last year against the Knicks. Last year against the Knicks, Joel was putting up 30 and Maxey was putting up 30. If you add a decent Paul George to that mix, then the team would, I think that they would have beaten the Knicks. And I think this year, where the East is so wide open outside of the Cavs and the Celtics, if you get a healthy Paul George that's really on his game and is being that $50 million man that the Sixers paid him to be, then you could do some damage in the East. And I think Joel Embiid could avoid the Eastern Conference Finals dilemma that he's experienced for the last few years, just if Paul George stays healthy. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video and you would like to see more in-depth NBA content on a daily basis, hit that subscribe bell.